So in this session, you'll notice that there are a bunch of markers, and they are indicated up in this ruler bar. They say things like location 1, location 2, location 3. When I created them, I didn't give them any specific names. They just kind of came out to the default name. So first off, let's look at how you make these markers as a little bit of review. If you have the markers ruler visible, you can just click on the plus sign, and wherever your cursor is, it'll make a new location, and then you can give it a name. The other way that you can do it is hitting the enter key on the far right of the keyboard. Don't confuse it with the return key. It does the same thing. So these are really basic markers. The way that you get rid of them are you either press the option key and using your cursor click on it, or you can click on it and drag it down till you see a trash can sign, and that will get rid of the marker. And you can, of course, take it and move it around by just using your cursor. You know, it looks like a little grabber. Some particulars about markers is you can double click on them and edit them. And just looking at this, you'll see that there are some things that go along with it. So it just says marker, but you could also make a selection. So if you had a selection that you're working on that you wanted to pull up again and again, I would go ahead and make my selection, hit the return key, choose selection, and then hit OK. And now if I collapse that selection and let me pull up my memory locations, you can see that this memory location looks a little bit different. And if I click on it, it just goes ahead and remakes that selection. So that can be helpful. To delete this, I'm just going to use the option key and click on it to delete it. Something else is, let me do that again and make a little selection, and I'll save it. And this time I'm also going to choose one of these general properties below that says zoom settings and hit OK. Now what this does is when I zoom out, go somewhere else in the project, and then go back and choose that memory location, not only does it pull my selection up, but it also pulls me at the same level of zoom that I had when I made the selection, which is nice. So if I'm doing some detailed editing, it helps save some steps. So some other things is you can go back in and rename it if you need to. And you can see that you can also turn off your memory location types. So if you want to see things that are not markers, you can uncheck the markers and you can see just selections. Because you can see that this list will get really extensive or really long in a hurry, especially if you're using it to identify every sound within your 2-minute clip. Other things to think about here are you can use it to add comments, as you might have guessed. Don't worry about these other settings, although track heights might be useful. So if you want to have it so that you not only zoom in, but then also make your track height really long so that you can really look and see sample values, that can be helpful. And window configuration, so that if you have your mixer visible or if you have your video window up, it will also just pull those up and put them back in the same places that you had. Looking at selection and marker, you'll see that there's reference. And the two options here are absolute and bar and beat. If you're using music or you're making music, then bar and beat would be more useful. But since we're not using a beat time scale, then what happens is absolute becomes our default. If you're using a beat-based time scale, or if you're using, I believe, the grid-based editor, then your default's going to be bar and beat. And you'll have to actively change that to absolute. Let me go ahead and hit OK. And again, we can delete these if we need to, or add more.